For this episode of Open Studios, we're visiting the studio of Joey Fauerso to talk with her about her works in our upcoming show, Narrative Access, a collaboration with the Drawing Center. Describe how drawing is the basis of your practice or at the root of your practice, kind of regardless of the media itself and how it weaves itself in and out of those different processes.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when I really started to think about drawing as its own entity and how that functioned within my work, it was when I was hired at Texas State, where I teach, to head the drawing program. And the fact that Texas State had a drawing major was an interesting thing to me because I had never heard of a university program that had split drawing and painting as two separate things. So I started to really research and think deeply about what were the sort of the specific qualities of drawing. And as I thought about it more, I realized that it really was kind of at the center of the things that I'm interested in, for a number of reasons. You know, I think about drawing as being inherently immediate, and so the possibilities for improvisation are also probably the most defined. In a lot of, I think about my work having a lot to do, as I said before, with the intersection between drawing, painting, and performance. And so the importance of gesture, the importance of sort of the performed line, or how an animation can kind of be a performed painting, becomes really important. I think another element of drawing that I love is that there is a transparency to the process. You know, it's not necessarily an additive process in the sense that you're building towards something. You're always at the same level, kind of at the same surface level. And that sort of the history of the mark and getting back to the paper, sort of technically, I'm always, whether I'm making paintings or drawings, I almost always work on paper, and I'm always kind of taking it back to the paper, wiping back to the original surface, and letting that surface be a player, you know, in the language of the work. And I would say even conceptually that kind of comes into play, because a lot of my figurative work is kind of interested in blurring the lines between positive and negative space, or the boundaries between inside and outside the body, inside the outsides of our psyche or our consciousness. Or so I would say it's you know, it plays a central role in a number of ways. Oftentimes when I'm working on paintings, I like to sit down. I really like to sit on the floor. So this used to be my bed platform, but now it is my painting platform. I oftentimes work from photographs that I've taken with a specific idea in mind. So these are photographs that I took for the dog hospital book. I mostly use watercolor and gouache for the smaller pieces, and for my larger paintings, I oftentimes work in oil. But there's something kind of nice about having it contained on this little island. It's like a painting island, is how I think about it.
What is the significance of using family and friends in your work?
Yeah, you know, I think I really started collaborating with my family and my friends in graduate school, and asking them to be models for figurative paintings. So I think having the people that are close to me also be sort of performers within the paintings has been something that's been happening for a long time. But in terms of a more direct integration of family into my work, I think as my kids have gotten a little bit older, they have an interest in being in the studio, and I'm really interested in the kinds of games they are playing and just how intensely creative their day-to-day experiences, all the kind of things they're building and games they're playing. So I think in the newest work, the work that I'm showing at Blue Star, a lot of it is inspired by my two boys, and almost all of the pieces include members of my family. So I think it comes both from being sort of inspired by their day-to-day lives, also the practicalities of being an artist and a mother, and also just that history of asking my parents, my brother, my sister, and other members of my family to participate in my work. This is the area where I do a lot of recording, especially for the drawing battles and the performative pieces that I'm showing at Blue Star. So it's basically like set up like a copy stand, and I have this big desk here. The piece that's on the table right now is from a series of pieces I've been doing with my little brother, who is a poet. Basically, I asked him to write down poems from memory, and then as he wrote them down, I would sort of redact them or cover them up with this ink line. And I'm hoping to continue this series. And it's really interesting because I didn't realize this was going to happen, but when you write in Sharpie, when you first put the ink line over it, it has this completely impenetrable, shiny, rich blackness. And then the words start to kind of emerge through the blackness. And I was kind of interested in how that seemed to correlate with memory and retention, and how we're able to pull things out of our memory or our subconscious.
Will you describe in detail how those games play out in your work, more specifically the drawing battle pieces?
Those pieces, the drawing battles, started through a collaboration with Tatiana Istomina, another artist in the Open Sessions program, which is this wonderful program that I've been involved with at the Drawing Center, and all the artists in the show obviously are in that program too. Tatiana and I were interested in this idea of drawing and listening, and Tatiana has continued with the project, with the Scary Stories project, in terms of people telling stories and then recording people drawing while the stories were happening. So the first iteration of that project we showed at the Drawing Center last year, and for my version of the project, I was recording people drawing their actual hands. And in a lot of my work, I'm really interested in the kind of intersection between drawing, painting, and performance, and the way that a drawing or painting can be performed through video, through animation, through different contexts. So I really became interested in the gestures that were happening with the hands as much as what was being drawn on the paper. And I started to think it would be interesting to do some kind of collaborative performances where there were more than one set of hands drawing. And right around that time, I saw my sons in the kitchen, and they were having this drawing battle. They called it a drawing battle, and that was like they were fighting and drawing at the same time. And it was like super joyful and explosive, and they only did it that one time, but I was like, that is a great starting point for these collaborative drawing videos. So it really came from them, and then we started recording them in the studio, and then from that I started to think about how other familial dynamics, how other social dynamics could play out through collaborative drawing, through different kinds of collaborative performances that involve drawing and gesture and touching in different ways. So in line with this instinct or this desire to incorporate my family life into the work, the other project that I'm showing at Blue Star is a book project that I've been working on called Dog Hospital. And I'm showing the paintings in a narrative sequence. And that project was also born out of observing my kids doing something really interesting, which is they were playing this game called Dog Hospital, and I happened to be sitting in their room with a sketch pad, and I started writing down what they were saying as they were playing. And what was really interesting about it is that about a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so over the last year, as a family, we've been dealing with my treatments, and I'm doing fine now. But I think it was a pretty intense experience for them, seeing me go through all of these kind of medical treatments and being at the doctors a lot. And so I could see that they were processing that experience through this game and through this kind of imaginative play, which was incredibly interesting to me and really moving. And so what I ended up doing was taking the text that I had recorded, the things that they were saying as they were playing, and then responding to that text based on my own experience over the last year, sort of my own experience of dealing with the cancer, dealing with the treatments, and kind of reconciling with those realities. So the book becomes a pairing of kind of the way the family processed the event from two perspectives, from an adult perspective and from a child's perspective.